Spin Pixie here, and I'm Monday's hostess for Planet Pathlings. This week on Planet Pathlings, we are talking about the method before the magic. So all of those awesome things that we will be doing before we get down to the meat and potatoes of things. And so my topic this week is going to be magical study. And what I have done for the magical study of things is I've created an outline. Now what this outline is just a basic guidance for you guys to take a look at before beginning your magical studies, before really delving into what you might want to take on for your magical path. Just some things to think about before getting started on your journey. So the first thing you want to do is really sit down with yourself and begin to journal, begin to write. And the first thing you're going to want to ask yourself is, what are your personal beliefs? What is your personal belief system? Judging from where you've been to where you are now, what are the things that you do believe in? And how does magic or how does the pagan path come into consideration? Ask yourself questions. What are your beliefs? What are your questions about what you believe? Also, there's things that you know to be true for yourself, your own personal truth. Affirm that. Begin to write things down and journal. Keep your questions and your affirmations, things that you want to learn and things that you feel you know within your heart of hearts that are your own personal truth. This is a time where you're going to really want to start thinking about whether you want to keep a journal or a diary or a book of shadows, something magical to help you start with your methodology. Once you've delved into what your personal beliefs are, then will come the magical interests. What are you interested in? Think about what your magical interests are. What are you wanting to study? Do you want to study astrology, tarot, certain pantheons? Do you want to study numerology? What are the things that call to you? What are you guided intuitively to take a look at? And then once you have those points of study written down and the interests, also before you move on, think about what calls to you and how you learn. How do you learn better by watching videos? Do you learn better by listening to lectures? By reading? How do you learn best? Have that in consideration when you're taking on your points of study, so that you can remain focused and remain active in what you're doing. You don't want to just be bored with what you're studying. You want to find ways to inspire you to keep on going. And make sure you study what calls to you. There might be a deity, a pantheon, a point of study that calls to you that you might want to investigate. So once you've got that down, set goals. Set clear and concise goals for what you want to achieve on these particular study paths. Do you want to set a timeline? Like, do you want to spend 6 months to a year on astrology or on tarot? Do you want to group things together? How do you best learn? And giving yourself a timeline to stay on task so that you can learn what you want to learn and move on to your next point of interest. Also, give yourself a timeline for if something just isn't capturing your imagination and sparking your creativity. If something doesn't spark you in a certain amount of time, move on. That doesn't mean that you'll forget it forever, but right now it's just not what is in you to study. So just move on. And also design routines. Get into the magical routine. Are you going to want to do a devotional in the morning or a Eucharist? Are you going to want to say things in the evening so that you can dream better? Are you going to want to keep journals, dictionaries, and diaries handy so that you can write and look up information? What are the routines that you want to implement in your magical practice? And what are your desires? What do you want to gain within your magical practice? And that's the key thing to all of this, is to practice. Practice writing down affirmations. Practice writing down the things that you want to be. And don't write them in the future tense. Write them in the present tense so that they come into being, so that they manifest. And so once you have all that written down, then comes the research and information part. And that is basically, are there books or authors or YouTubers that you've heard about that you want to investigate and do your research on? Or do you have friends who are into the craft, or especially family? This is the time to look to those people closest to you for any sort of magical inspiration and guidance and wisdom, because you already know who your friends and family are and if you trust them. And if you do, that's, great. That's a great source for picking up information that can be priceless to you. Consider your sources. If you do go with books or authors or YouTubers and you don't know these people, you don't really know their education, you don't really know them, consider your sources. Consider them. Are they trustworthy? Do you know them to have factual information? Do you get a good feeling when you watch their videos, read their books, when you hear them speak? Do you get a good sense that these are people who are knowledgeable? And then also to consider, are you going with crowd frenzy? A lot of people buy tarot decks, or they buy books, or they look at deities, or they even take on deities or magical paths because it seems to be a crowd frenzy. They seem to be a real trend or a real wave going towards certain things, and they tend to say, oh, this book is rated really high. A lot of people like this. I'm going to buy this. I'm going to check it out. And what they end up finding out is that this particular thing is not for them. So make sure that you're not just going with the crowd, and not going on ratings, not going on reviews, not going on recommendations, because you more than anything are going to be on this path. This is your path. And if it works for someone else but not for you, that's definitely something to consider. And then finally, trust your intuition. What you feel is right. What do you feel is right? What calls to you? You know that first instinct, whether you pick up a book and you hold it in your hand, you skim through it, you know whether or not you're going to like what you see, what you read. And if it doesn't call to you, put it down. There are tons of books in every point of study for magic, so you better than anyone else know what is going to suit your interests, what videos, what authors, what books, what stories are going to suit your interests. So take all that into consideration and write all this down, not only because it's going to help you along your way, but because in a month's time or in a year's time, you can go back to where you started from and see if what you believed in then is going with what you're believing in now, and how things have changed and shaped and grown along your journey. So hopefully this little outline gives you some foundation to where you want to start off with, because the best paths have the strongest foundation. And hopefully this has helped you make some decisions on where you want to go on your path. So thanks for watching, and I will see you next week. And until then, many blessings. Bye-bye.